Chapter 1. Part 1. The board convenes. The boardroom sat at the top of Terrier like a crown made of glass and steel. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed the Capitol below. Perfect grids of light, traffic flowing with algorithmic precision, drones moving like insects trained not to sting. Beneath the table, far beneath the city itself, NetPrime hummed, a low, almost organic vibration that never stopped. Matthew Finn stood at the head of the table, hands clasped behind his back. "Let's begin," he said calmly. Holographic panels ignited in the air above the obsidian table. Stock curves, population metrics, mutation heat maps, consumer engagement graphs. Soaz Forrest leaned forward first, already smiling for an audience that wasn't there. "The rollout window is fragile," she said. "Public sentiment is optimistic but tense. People feel the world tightening around them. That's not fear. That's opportunity." Magnus Preem's cybernetic jaw clicked faintly as he spoke. "The pill is ready. Nanomachines stable. Full integration with NetPrime, SkyPrime uplink included. Combined with the new smartphone and system update, we're talking about seamless human-system interaction." Jessica Preem didn't look at her husband. Her eyes were fixed on a rotating DNA helix above the table, human strands braided with something distinctly not human. Matthew turned slightly. "And the risk?" Magnus didn't hesitate. "Only to those who don't take it." Silence followed. Not concern. Approval. Part 2. Selling the future. Soaz flicked her fingers, changing the display. A childlike humanoid figure appeared. Soft features, wide eyes, skin almost luminous. "Project Hope cannot remain a closed-door miracle," she said. "People don't trust what they can't see, so we let them see it." Jessica's lips curved, not quite a smile. "A prototype is not a mascot," she said coolly. "Oh, but it can be," Soaz replied. "Hope isn't just a project, it's a brand. Toys, educational content, a serialized holodrama. Hope learns the world, Hope saves the city." Matthew raised an eyebrow. "You're suggesting we merchandise a bioengineered humanoid?" "I'm suggesting," Soaz said smoothly, "that we introduce humanity's next step as something lovable, safe, and inevitable." Magnus nodded once. "If people emotionally bond with hope, resistance to future bioengineering drops by 43%. Jessica finally looked at them. Her hair shifted, dark blue bleeding into violet. "You're not selling her," she said. "You're normalizing her." "Exactly," Soaz said. "And while we're at it, your cosmetic bioengineering work? Perfect skin, adaptive hair pigmentation, controlled aging?" She smiled wider. "We don't call it genetic modification, we call it personal optimization." Matthew Finn watched the projections carefully. "Release timelines?" he asked. Soaz didn't miss a beat. Hope teasers launch alongside Magnus's pill announcement. Innocence paired with inevitability. Part 3. The war outside the walls. Nicholas Fragg shifted in his seat, armored fingers tapping against the table. "You're all talking like the wasteland isn't moving," he growled. The display changed. Grainy combat footage. Weaponized convoys tearing across irradiated highways. Gangs flying stitched banners. Mutants smashing against Terrier's outer districts. "We've had 3 breaches this month," Fragg continued. "Gangs moving city to city, scavenger armies. Some of them are organized, smart." Magnus leaned back. "My cybernetics division has a solution." A new schematic appeared, soldiers augmented beyond recognition. Neural-linked targeting, auto-corrected reflexes, weapon systems tied directly into NetPrime. Fragg smiled for the first time. "My soldiers won't miss." "And the optics?" Matthew asked. Soaz already had the answer. "We don't show the guns, we show protection. Terrier holds. Wasteland Inc. keeps you safe." She gestured to the footage of mutants. "Monsters at the gate make excellent villains." At Part 4, Supply, Demand, and Control. Alias Crow cleared his throat softly. "I'd like to discuss medicine." The room quieted. "I'm preparing a new drug," he continued, "suppresses mutation symptoms. Not a cure, just enough relief to function." Jessica frowned slightly. "And the downside?" Alias smiled thinly. "Dependency." Magnus understood immediately. "And the antidote?" "Separate release," Alias said. "Limited supply, premium access." Matthew Finn nodded slowly. "You create the sickness," he said, "then sell the relief. Public demand will be intense," Soaz added, "especially if we leak the antidote's existence." Jessica's hair shifted again, now streaked with gold. "And Hope?" Matthew asked her. "She's alive," Jessica said quietly. "She's growing, and she's more than any of you understand." Matthew looked around the table. "Good," he said. "Then she's perfect." Outside, Sky Prime adjusted its orbit. Below, Net Prime pulsed. And somewhere beyond Terrier's walls, the wasteland began to move. Chapter 1. Part 2. Civil Order. The lights above the boardroom dimmed as a new hologram forced its way into the center of the table. A woman resolved into view, sharp posture, immaculate suit, the seal of the worldwide civil authority hovering behind her like a ghost of legitimacy. Asia Nova did not smile. "Matthew Finn," she said. "Board members." Her eyes flicked briefly to each face, lingering just long enough to remind them that, on paper at least, Wasteland Inc. still answered to someone. "We have a problem," she continued. "The homeless population has increased 12% across Terrier and the outer districts in the last quarter alone. Displaced refugees from the wastelands, Net Prime disconnected citizens, people falling through your systems." Magnus's cybernetic jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "They are non-compliant users," he said, "statistically inevitable." Asia's expression hardened. "They are still people." Matthew Finn finally took his seat, folding his hands calmly on the table. "And they're still your responsibility," Asia added. "Civil unrest is rising, encampments near transit hubs, food riots in Lower Terrier. The perception," she stressed the word, "is that Wasteland Inc. profits while civilians rot in the streets." Soas Forrest tilted her head, already calculating angles, lighting, headlines. "Perception," she echoed softly. "That's something we can fix. The solution." Soas stood pacing slowly around the table, as if already addressing a press conference. "We don't frame this as a problem," she said. "We frame it as an opportunity for reintegration." A new set of visuals bloomed into existence. Green wasteland facilities, smiling workers in clean uniforms, branded logos stamped onto prefab housing. "Wasteland Inc. launches a humanitarian initiative," Soas continued. "Work, shelter, purpose. We take the homeless population and offer them something the world hasn't in years: belonging." Asia narrowed her eyes. "And the cost?" Soas smiled. "Minimal." Magnus glanced at the data streams flickering across his implants. "You're proposing labor redistribution." "Community rebuilding," Soas corrected. "We relocate them to company-controlled agricultural zones in the wastelands, farms, processing facilities, fully self-sustaining." Matthew leaned back slightly. "And employment." "Oh, they'll have jobs," Soas said brightly. "Housing provided, food provided, structure provided." Alias Crow finally spoke, voice smooth as anesthetic. "And the product," he said. Soasi snapped her fingers. A logo appeared. "Wasteland Winkies, protein for a new world." "Jerky," she said. "High protein, affordable, shelf-stable, marketed as ethically sourced, bio-enhanced meat grown in harsh environments." Asia Nova stared at the display. "You're saying the homeless will process meat?" "Yes," Soas replied. "It cuts labor costs, reduces urban strain, and creates a feel-good narrative. No one left behind. Jobs, not handouts." She looked directly into the camera. "You'll look like heroes." What is not said? Jessica Price flicked briefly toward Alias Crow. Just a flicker. Enough. Alias adjusted the data subtly. Genetic charts hidden beneath agricultural reports, enzyme markers buried under nutritional values. "The meat will be bioengineered," Alias said calmly, "enhanced for flavor, preservation, and sustainability." Asia hesitated. "And the source?" Magnus answered before anyone else could. "Waste protein," he said. "Reclaimed biological material. True, just not complete." Jessica said nothing, but her hair darkened, a slow bleed of color that went unnoticed by everyone except Net Prime. Matthew Finn studied Asia Nova through the hologram. "You asked how to fix the homelessness crisis," he said evenly. "We are offering a permanent solution." Asia exhaled slowly. "I'll need reports, oversight, transparency." Suosi clasped her hands together. "Of course," she said. "We'll give you documentaries, human interest stories, before and after segments, smiling faces, full access, curated, of course." The word curated hung in the air. Approval. After a long pause, Asia Nova nodded. "The authority will support the initiative," she said, "on a provisional basis." Her image began to dissolve. "Remember, Matthew," she added just before disconnecting, "civil order only works if the people believe they matter." The hologram vanished. Silence returned. Soas exhaled, satisfied. "Well," she said lightly, "that went beautifully." Magnus turned to Matthew. "Production timelines?" "Immediate," Matthew replied. "Begin relocation within the week." Alias Crow smiled faintly. Jessica finally spoke. "They'll never know," she said. "It wasn't a question." Matthew Finn stood. No, he agreed. They won't. Beneath Terrier, NetPrime absorbed the new data streams. Far beyond the city walls, farms began to rise, and soon the world would taste the future, salted, preserved, and branded. Chapter 1, Part 3, Control the Story. The boardroom doors sealed with a soft hydraulic hiss. No applause, no celebration, only efficiency. Matthew Finn remained standing, his reflection fractured across the glass walls, Terrier behind him glowing like a controlled burn. Now, he said, we stabilize. Soas was already moving again, pulling data from NetPrime with practiced ease. The Winkies initiative buys us public goodwill for 6 to 9 months, she said. Longer if we stagger releases. First the shelters, then the farms, then the product. Hollow screens bloomed with headlines that did not yet exist. Wasteland Inc. ends homelessness from streets to stability, protein for a hungry world. Influencers are prepped, Soas continued. Paid reactions, grassroots campaigns, real stories. We'll film the first relocations. Warm lighting. Children, gratitude. She paused, glancing at Matthew. And if anyone asks where people went who didn't want to relocate? Magnus answered flatly. They were offered assistance and declined. Nicholas Fragg leaned forward, armored elbows resting on the table. Security will be an issue, he said. Relocation convoys through the wasteland attract attention. Gangs are already sniffing supply routes. The display shifted again. Red markers crawling along trade paths between cities. Convoy ambushes. Burned vehicles. Skulls welded to hoods. These aren't random raiders, Fragg continued. They're organized, some of them military trained. Some augmented with black market cybernetics, probably stolen Wasteland Inc tech. Magnus's jaw clicked. Then it's time we upgraded our response. A new weapons schematic unfolded, sleek, modular, terrifyingly elegant. Neural-locked rifles, Magnus said, only function when synced to authorized implants, smart targeting, smart suppression. Fragg smiled again. My soldiers won't just win, he said. They'll be efficient. And discreet, Soas added quickly. No mass casualty visuals. We show protection, not force. Matthew nodded. Terrier must feel untouched, he said. Chaos stays outside the frame. The market of need. Alias Crow tapped a command into the table, pulling up medical projections. The Winkies product will create secondary effects, he said. Nutritional dependency. Mild metabolic adaptation. Jessica looked up sharply. Side effects? Alias met her gaze. Manageable, but I recommend releasing my new stabilizing drug within 3 months. Soas's eyes lit up. Create the problem, she said softly, then sell the peace of mind. Alias inclined his head. The antidote won't be mandatory, he added, but will ensure it's desirable. Matthew Finn watched the graphs climb, consumption curves rising like obedient lines. Scarcity? He asked. Controlled, Alias replied. Limited access tiers, premium health plans, loyalty incentives. Magnus added, we can integrate compliance metrics into the nanotech pill. Users who stay within optimal parameters receive better access. Jessica's voice cut in, colder now. You're turning survival into a feedback loop. Matthew finally looked at her. That's what civilization is, he said, a loop that works. Jessica said nothing. Her hair shifted again, slow, conflicted, a spectrum NetPrime quietly recorded. Hope, refined. Matthew gestured toward her. Jessica, he said, your projects. She inhaled once, then brought up a new display. Human faces appeared, perfect symmetry, flawless skin, eyes calibrated for trust. My cosmetic bioengineering is ready, she said. Non-invasive, reversible, marketed as enhancement, not alteration. Soazi stepped closer, studying the images like cover art. Beauty without stigma, she murmured. We sell aspiration, not correction. Jessica's voice hardened. This will change how people see themselves. Yes, Soaz said, and that's why it'll sell. Matthew nodded slowly. And hope? Jessica hesitated, just a fraction of a second too long. She's progressing faster than expected, she said. Cognitive development, emotional modeling, curiosity. Magnus leaned in. Is she stable? Jessica met his eyes. She's aware. Silence. Matthew smiled. Good, he said again. Awareness is marketable. Outside the glass. Far below the boardroom, Terrier pulsed on. Citizens scrolling feeds, trusting updates, consuming narratives engineered minutes ago. Beyond the walls, convoys formed. Shelters were assembled. Farms rose from poisoned soil. And somewhere deep beneath Wasteland Inc., NetPrime quietly adjusted probability models, calculating not if something would go wrong, but how profitable it would be when it did. Chapter 1. Part 4. The Finalization. The boardroom was quiet, the hum of Net Prime beneath them the only sound that felt alive. Outside, Terrier glittered like a jewel, unaware of the plans laid in its highest tower. Matthew Finn remained standing at the head of the table as the others began their departures. Final discussions. Magnus Priam leaned slightly towards Soares as she filed her hollow notes. His cybernetic eyes flicked with the pale glow of Net Prime's interface. "Once the pill goes live," Magnus said quietly, "the nanosync will integrate with every Wasteland Inc. system. Homes, vehicles, appliances, medical implants, and for the first time, game systems." Soares' eyes lit up. "No controllers," she whispered. "Everything, your mind, your body, your environment, directly connected. Users will experience their games as reality." Magnus smiled faintly. "We can finally control the interface completely. Seamless, addictive, reward loops built into the very synapses of their nervous systems." Soares nodded, already visualizing the PR campaigns. "Imagine the headlines. Play without limits. Experience the future you. People will line up." Magnus glanced at the holographic vehicle schematics flickering between them. Modular, reinforced, weaponized, designed for rough terrain and hostile encounters. "Convoys are ready," he said. "Weapons integration finalized, automated targeting synchronized to convoy implants. Any disruptions along the route will be neutralized before they even reach the farms." Soares tapped her fingers against the table. "And the shelters? The farms? The Winkies processing facilities?" "All prepared," Magnus replied. "Routes mapped. Contingency scenarios uploaded to Net Prime. Any gang or mutant resistance is predicted and countered in advance." Soares smiled faintly. Efficient, invisible, perfectly controlled. The board's finalization. Matthew Finn surveyed the emptying boardroom, his gaze moving from Magnus and Soares to Alias Crow, Jessica Preem and Nicholas Fragg as they all completed their final briefings before leaving. "Then it is settled," Matthew said, his voice smooth, almost ceremonious. "All plans finalized. Wasteland Winkies rollout, nanopill distribution, Hope launch sequence, cosmetic and bioengineered products, convoy deployments, public perception management, everything." The room echoed with silence. No one questioned him. No one needed to. Soares gathered her files, Magnus secured his devices, Alias Crow carefully archived his projections, and Jessica Preem adjusted her hair as it flickered between violet and gold, finally nodding once. Nicholas Fragg checked his armored gauntlets, satisfied that Terrier's borders were secure. One by one, they left, doors sealing behind them. Matthew Finn alone. Matthew Finn remained, still, alone. The reflections of the city in the glass stretched across his face. Holographic screens continued to hover in the empty room, scrolling statistics, simulations, probabilities, but they no longer demanded attention. He walked slowly to the head of the table, hands brushing lightly across the black surface, feeling the weight of the plans they had set in motion. The homeless will work. The pill will connect them. The convoys will move. Hope will exist. He let the words roll in his mind, smooth, cold, and undeniable. Beneath Terrier, Net Prime hummed, Sky Prime orbiting silently. The world's fate measured in lines of code and calculated probabilities. Matthew sat in the chair at the head of the table, alone, as the hum of the city and the pulse of Net Prime surrounded him. For a moment, there was nothing but order, and then he allowed himself the faintest hint of a smile. It is all ready. End of Chapter 1.